sorry, Jarvis. Did you say action and did you say smoke and did you say fire? Yeah, I heard all three of
I
those.
said fi, T. I
All of
said
it.
fi.
Okay, well, you all know I call it fire and it's
I know
fire,
you can't tell
but
like
it's gonna be.
that.
But smoke and fire after
Oh
smoke and
goodness.
mirrors for the
Mm,
last several seasons is what seems to be going on with the Hawks. Now, listen, everybody, this is speculation from all angles because a
right.
lot of the information that's coming through is anonymous, but we see a consistency in the content of the anonymity. So the most recent was this anonymous coach who said of Trey Young, he doesn't like the coach, meaning Nate McMillan. The
Hmm.
coach doesn't like him, meaning Coach Nate doesn't like Trey. But also, there are many players who don't like Trey. And so it speaks to, how all of us have kind of been postulating, like, what is going on? Why can't we get consistency? One game, this team is brilliant and they're looking like they can compete with the best of them in the Eastern Conference. The next minute, they look like they're shooting for a top pick in the lottery. It's
Right.
like there's no consistency. But Jarvis, when you can't get along, you can't be consistent because you're not always on the same page. I just feel like yes, we don't have anything specific, but if we take it back to the John Collins Trey Young beef, where they said nothing's going on here, nothing to see, but then in one interview, John Collins said, "Oh, we're good now." Well, then there was something going on there. I feel like I don't know how deep it is, and we don't know all the players involved, but something is amiss with this team right now.
Absolutely. And when you have reports of rival executives saying that
Yes,
he may request a trade
yes,
if things don't get right or they don't make any inroads in the playoffs this year. And we talking about 32 games, being 32 games in, and you're at a 500.
right.
Ooh, that smells like a play-in seed and potentially getting bounced out in the first round to me.
Yes.
And that, but the thing about it is, I thought that you brought up, really feel like this is kind of like where we are, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
who's at the center of every report, every doggone situation that's been going on, whether it be a beef between player or beef between the
Mm-hmm.
coach. Like, there's one constant, right? At the one common denominator.
Yep.
That's Trey freaking Young.
Yes.
And you know what, T? I started going back, doing a little research when we started talking about what we're going to get into today. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that one thing that I looked at, well, with that year where they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Everybody was on board for what Nate McMillan had to be doing because
Mm-hmm.
Lloyd Pierce was so bad, right? Rightfully so,
Right.
right? Lloyd was walking around that mad boy like he had like 17 world championships, and you better listen to me. It was my way or the highway. And they
Uh,
came in with a different approach, and they were able to get where they needed to be, and that was in the Eastern Conference Finals. And barring an injury from Trey,
mm-hmm.
more more than likely an NBA Finals appearance. So I think that the main thing is the way he was playing that year, right? He was shooting probably about a 35% clip from
Yes.
three. He's shooting 30% this year, or 31% if you want to round him up. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
short my guy, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that Trey has to play better.
Yeah.
Like, it all
Yeah.
boils down to Trey having to play better, because you said it yourself yesterday when we were talking about the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, winning cures all. It cures all, and I think that in order for this team to be able to get where they need to be, like, the star got to play.
Yeah.
He has to play
Yeah.
because we know what the guys are capable of, right? Like, with Trey, even last night, he had
Mm-hmm.
29 points in the first half and
Yeah.
then ended up with 34. Like, what are we talking about? What happened?
Exactly.
Like,
Yep.
can I get a 50 piece?
Right.
If that's how you feel the game needs to go, let's go. Let's do
Mhm.
it, because this team is only gonna go as far as Trey Young takes it. And I think that sitting around pointing the finger or leaking
Mhm.
stuff to certain people so stuff
Yeah.
can get out and all
Yep.
that, it's time out for all that.
Yeah.
Dude, play better, and then we could talk.
Yeah. Right. But you're gonna have to get past your hashtag petty
Right.
because if you're out
Exactly.
there playing a great brand of basketball, I still say that if there's enmity and strife in that locker room, it's still not going to translate completely on the court. It may
Right.
translate a couple games because you'll be able to carry them, but if you want all 12, to buy in, then whatever the issues are, they're going to have to be resolved. Like you're
Yeah.
not going to really, unless someone is mature enough. Like, and I've said it a million times. I'm going to say it again. This is where you miss Vince Carter. This is where you miss Lou Williams, because there's no one in that locker room that can pull his coat. It's just the reality of it.
Nobody got his respect, right? There's
Yeah,
nobody
there you
that
go.
he feel like he's equal to everybody, or
Right. Or
more than.
superior.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, superior to everybody. Yes,
Right.
exactly.
So if there's no one to kind of pull his coattail and say, hey, man, if we do it this way, or if you approach your teammate that way, or approach your coach or the game that way, well, where's the guidance coming from to tell you that you're supposed to do or be anything other than what you are? But someone made an interesting comment as well. And man, I forget who it was, Jarvis, but it was a member of the media. And
Mm-hmm.
he reminded us, Trey has been this person from junior high to high school to college and now to the pros. He's not that kind of leader, right? That vocal leader or that
Yep.
guy to have the come to Jesus conversation and say, look, man, we got to get it together. It's just not him. And that's
Yeah.
not knocking him, right? Not
That's
banging on him,
fair.
because you are who
Yeah.
you are.
Mm-hmm.
But in all fairness, if everybody's expecting Nate to continue to evolve as a coach and for him to try to meet in the middle or what have you, then when are we going to see some of that or hear some of that about Trey? Because
Yeah.
we've only heard so far what Nate has done, how
Yeah.
Has gone to Oklahoma to meet with Trey, how Nate has put AJ Griffin in and given him more minutes than he's probably ever given a rookie, and
Right.
started giving Jalen Johnson minutes late last season and has done it this year. He seems to be the one who's trying. Where's the effort from Trey? And again, this is all speculation based on what we're hearing, but at this point, the speculation is going to start to mimic fact because you're just hearing it. You're hearing it way too much. So I don't doubt that if you guys check out Locked On Sports today, you're going to hear it too, because this is a big story because it's been ongoing for so long. So if you want to hear about this story, or you want to hear about Willie Woney as far as Lamar Jackson, and if he's actually going to play on Saturday, check out Locked On Sports today. They got your reaction to the biggest stories. They have a reaction to the games of the night before. And just like we have for the culture, they have your take of the day. So check them out on the Odyssey app, at YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, after you check out ATL Day Ones, because you're going to want to know how we feel about Trae Young, but also you're going to want to know how we feel with the head scratcher that was the game last night. So, Jarvis, that game,
Whew.
that game.
That game.
I love the fact that the Hawks, I hate the slow start, got to
Mm.
figure that piece out.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that they battled back, not just from being down 18, but actually went up 6. So it was a 24-point swing in your favor.
Right.
But let's be real about it. While, yes, a game doesn't come down to just one play, it kind of does, because
Yeah.
these teams are very evenly matched and they've been
Right.
going back and forth with each other like
Very
this.
eerily similar. Yes.
Exactly. So you got the best of it in Chicago on December 11th. So you kind of knew going into that fourth quarter, like, this is going to be a straight dogfight. And whoever finishes the dogfight, like last game, gets the win. And that's what happened. But for me, Jarvis, it was more like, A, there's that pesky fourth quarter again. And B, I could have sworn folks were supposed to understand their assignment. And as much as Bogdanovich is great in understanding his offensive assignments, I replayed that last play so many times, Jarvis. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my eyes were blurry
All right.
and crossing. And I just kept saying, how in the world did Io swing all the way from impounding that ball to rebounding, because there wasn't a presence of mind? Now, that said, there were 3 Hawks defenders under the rim to, obviously get the rebound. The problem is everybody's back
Yeah.
was facing away from Io and a couple of other Bulls. So that was my thing. I was like, okay, situational basketball, somebody must have missed that memo.
Mm-hmm. Or at least supposed to be around the rim to
Yes.
deter him. But
Yeah.
I think not only Bogdan
Around it.
Bogdanovich, right? Like not only Bogdan Bogdanovich, but T.
Yeah.
The basketball hit John Collins in the phenomenals,
Right.
like in his
Right.
little
And I was
Johnson,
getting to him too.
like the Johnson, like he hit him in the
Yeah.
Johnson. Like what are you doing? Like how did
Yeah.
like you're supposed to be the guy that the athletic guy, the guy that like you that ball touch your body, you're supposed to be
Yes.
able to suck that bad boy up
Yep.
as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Because that's what you do. You're supposed to be a rebounder. You're supposed to be a guy that's supposed to be. That's the thing you're supposed to
Yeah.
do, right? Because
Like a true
if he
box
gets that
out.
a true box out, like so, if he gets that,
Mm-hmm.
it just you're
Yes.
just in a situation where it's just stinks. Like you go into
Mm-hmm.
overtime, but it doesn't guarantee him a win. But you give your team a chance to win when you
Yes.
do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like asking him to catch a ball get a ball for a rebound that touches your body. That's not
Mm-hmm.
much to ask. And
It's
I
not.
think that, like you said, this is gonna be interesting to watch what happens with JC because
Yeah.
it's time.
Yeah.
And that's not an indictment on him as a player, but it's just time because it's time for some change. It's trying to
Yeah.
rework some things and try to figure. Cause the Hawks have to figure this thing out. T.
They're gonna, yeah, and they're gonna
Yeah,
have to
like
figure it out fast because
exactly.
this race is gonna be so tight and down to the wire for teams not named Boston Celtics.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
they
so
straight.
tight that these are the kinds of games that are going to really affect you down the road, where you literally might be one game like, oh wow, who would have won that one game? Wouldn't have to do a play in. I mean, it might be
Yep.
that serious at this
Yep.
point. But I want to give credit to those who did actually do what they were supposed to do. DeJounte Murray stayed in the middle, kind of played a little bit like zone, but stayed with his man. So he understood the assignment.
Right.
DeAndre Hunter closed out on DeMar DeRozan. I mean, all you can do is contest the heck out of that shot and make that dude shoot an air ball. He did what he was supposed to do. But yes, it was so, I want to say the words hyperbole, Jarvis, if I got it correct, but who ends up at the bottom of the Chicago Bulls pile when they decide to have a party for the win? John Collins. And I was like, oh my God, that is like hyperbole, poetic justice. That's something to be said.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that
It
was not
just
lost
yeah
on me. But I
yeah
do say this as we wrap up. Landry Fields is the kind of youthful GM now that he's taking over the day-to-day operations, who, whether you look at it from a perspective of getting the ship right with the coach, however that looks, whether you help Nate evolve or whether Nate moves on, or you get the current players to where they need to be, or you finally close the deal on getting John Collins out of there and moving on. I think Landry Fields could be the X factor that potentially rights the ship, but we'll continue to watch this because we just have a sneaking suspicion this is not the end of the road. But if you were like us last night and you were sitting on the edge of your seat trying to figure out what in the world is going to happen, you probably would have calmed yourself down with a Built Bar, because that's what chocolate does. It calms you down. And 100% real chocolate bar, a puff, man, listen, we probably could have all used it last night. So if you'd like to check out built.com and see not just the puffs, but all that they have to offer, you go to that website, built.com, and you use the code locked on 15. You'll get 50% off your first order. And think of it, you could have eaten that during that little meltdown at the end of the game and only taken in 160 calories while getting 15 grams of protein. I think that's a good look, especially when we know that we're just a couple days away from Christmas and a couple days away from New Year's, and we know what that means, eating a whole heck of a lot. So don't forget to check out the good snacks at built.com.